Discover how Henry Ford's incredible vision revealed a life-changing revolution in industry. In a small rural town in Michigan, the sun rose lazily over fields of golden corn, lighting up the hard work of those who toiled beneath it. Among them was Henry Ford, a dreamer with dirt under his fingernails and ambition pulsing through his veins. A soft breeze carried the scent of fresh earth mixed with the sweat of labor, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket, yet stifling his dreams. As he watched his father wrenching the plow through stubborn soil, fingers gnarled and calloused from years of relentless toil, Henry's soul swelled with a vision that felt too enormous for the small town. He dreamed of a future where machines did the work, where the weight of backbreaking labor could be lifted off tired shoulders. But in a place steeped in tradition, his hopes were greeted with rolled eyes and dismissive murmurs. "Stick to farming, Henry. That's where the real work lies," they'd say, voices dripping with skepticism. Each brush-off felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. Yet, at home, Clara stood as his unwavering anchor, her eyes sparkling with belief. "You can change the world, Henry. Don't let them dim your fire," she whispered at night, as they shared dreams under a blanket of stars. Her faith breathed life into his fading spirit. The reality, though, was hard. Bills piled high as dreams grew distant. The pressure bore down like a storm cloud. But then came the day Henry stumbled upon a man, a weather-beaten war veteran with eyes that glinted with curiosity. The man saw the spark in Henry, the unyielding ambition that burned in his heart. "You've got an idea, don't you, boy? Let us see it soar," he said, offering connections to investors an unexpected lifeline for Henry's ambition. It ignited a flicker of hope, and suddenly, the horizon didn't seem so far away. The assembly line, the revolutionary concept bubbled within him like boiling water, brim full and ready to overflow. It streamlined manufacturing, empowering workers, challenging old prejudices, and breathing new life into dreams long thought unattainable. It amazed those around him as success crept in, transforming the manufacturing landscape and shifting the very fabric of their community. Yet, with accolades came questions. Who truly deserved success? Was it the dreamers, the workers, or those rooted in steady traditions? As applause echoed in one ear, whispers of community division seeped into the other. Henry felt the weight of his rise against the pain of those left behind, the push and pull of ambition and loyalty. He sensed the shifting tides of resentment and admiration. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing at this pivotal junction, Henry felt the swell of his dreams intertwine with the reality of his community's struggles. This could be the dawn of a new era or the catalyst for deepening divides. With the notion of success heavy on his shoulders, he was faced with a question that could define everything. Would he elevate his vision at the cost of leaving his community in the dark? The true weight of his choices hung in the air like a storm, as Henry braced himself to confront the inevitable clash ahead. The essence of American values, integrity, perseverance, and collective progress teetered on a knife's edge, entwining his fate with those he so dearly loved. The morning sun cut through the remnants of a cool night, casting renewed light over Henry's workshop, a rickety structure filled with the scent of metal and oil. As he tightened the last bolt on what he believed would change the world, the sound of hammers and chatter outside met his ears. The town was buzzing with gossip, hope mixed with skepticism, about the transformation he was sparking. In that moment, Henry felt a surge of determination swell within him. Could he really turn ambition into something tangible? Did the whispers of dissent around him mean he should halt, or was this just the push he needed to forge ahead? He couldn't ignore the growing criticisms, but he couldn't let them extinguish his fire either. He had a vision, and right now it felt like the only thing that mattered. "Henry," Clara's voice broke through the machinery's clamor. She stood at the doorway, a vision of warmth amidst the cold steel. "You need to come see this?" she urged, excitement sparkling in her eyes. Curiosity flowed through him as he followed her outside. The sight that greeted them left him momentarily speechless. A gathering of townsfolk had formed, including those who once deemed his dreams foolish. They stood there, a mixture of faces illuminated by a concoction of admiration, doubt, and anticipation. The very air felt thick with possibilities. "Henry," an eager voice broke through the air. It was young Tom Jacobs, a local farmer. "People are starting to talk about your assembly line. Folks are excited about what it could mean for us. Some believe we could save time, maybe even make more money." Another voice chimed in, sparking a wave of murmurs through the crowd. "Hold on," Henry called out, raising his hands to quiet the chatter. "I want to make sure what I'm doing will benefit all of us. It's not just about profit for the few." The sincerity in his voice seeped into the hearts of those listening. The moment hung suspended, a delicate balance teetering between hope and skepticism. Clara's encouraging smile began to ease some of his tension. Perhaps this was the bridge he needed to connect his aspirations with the people he loved. Later that night, as they sat on the porch beneath a blanket of glittering stars, Clara leaned against him, her presence grounding. "They are beginning to believe in you, Henry, in your vision, but you have to be careful. With hope comes responsibility." He nodded, the weight of her words nesting deep in his heart. How easy it would be to lose sight of what mattered in the pursuit of greatness. Would he become what he despised, chasing shadows while leaving others behind? Days turned into weeks, and as the assembly line began its first run, Henry felt the world shift beneath him. The clank of machinery mixed with excited chatter of workers transformed the air. But beneath this veil of progress, unease nestled quietly in his gut. He noticed the older crew members, those who had worked in traditional ways, watching with narrowed eyes. Their expressions told stories of pride threatened by change, fears written in furrowed brows. "Henry," a voice called out, a soft one fraught with trepidation. It was old Mr. Davis, a fixture in the community. "You've got to understand, many depend on the old ways. What's going to happen to us?" The question hung heavy, and Henry felt its enormity. Could he navigate this minefield of human emotions? How could he transform an industry without tearing apart the community he cherished? As the wheels of industry turned and the profits grew, could Henry find common ground, bridging the rift that widened with every success he achieved? The challenge overwhelmed him, but amid the struggle, a thought flickered. Sometimes the hardest battles forge the strongest communities. But would that be enough to sustain what he was building? The future loomed like an unread book, each page filled with unknowns. Henry took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. He knew there were storms ahead, and he needed to hold on fiercely to his vision while lifting those left in the shadows. What would happen when he faced those who felt betrayed? Would he fight for them, or would ambition drive him to lose sight of what truly mattered? The question vibrated in the air, straining under the weight of change. The sound of metal grinding and machines whirring became a constant presence in the workshop, but the atmosphere felt different. Henry could sense the tension hanging thick like fog. Each worker's face told a story, some inspired by the prospect of innovation, others steeped in uncertainty and fear. "Henry," Clara called, her voice cutting through the noise. He turned to see her standing at the doorway, her brow furrowed with concern. "You need to talk to them. They're scared." He nodded, stepping away from the comfort of his machinery. As he approached the crowd, the chatter quieted. People shifted nervously, their eyes darting between him and each other. They were ready for answers, but were they ready for the truth? "I know change can be frightening," he began, hands shaking just slightly as he spoke. "But I promise you, I'm not trying to destroy our way of life. This assembly line can help us work smarter, not harder. Can bring new jobs and, yes, maybe even a better future." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Henry could see some nodding, while others remained skeptical. Arms crossed and expressions hardened. "Henry," said old Mr. Davis again, his voice steady and firm, "you might be forgetting about those who poured their lives into this work. What about them? What about me? Are we just going to be left behind? Taking a breath, Henry chose his words carefully. Mr. Davis, I swear to you that the past isn't being dismissed. It's important to us all. But we can't get stuck. If we embrace this, we can build something together that honors both our history and our future. Clara watched, her heart pounding, as she saw the conflict in their eyes. She wished she could whisper strength into his words, lend him the comfort she knew he needed. One man, one vision. It felt heavy. Could he truly unite them all? Days passed, and the assembly line ran smoothly, yet whispers lingered in every corner of the town. New workers showed up with bright eyes and hope, while others felt their own light dimming. Henry's heart ached with every complaint he overheard. He began reaching out to the old veterans of the trade, inviting them for coffee, asking them how they felt, what they feared. But every conversation was a double-edged sword. They appreciated his intentions but raised questions that haunted him long into the nights. Could they accept this new world without feeling betrayed? Was he asking too much of them, pushing them faster than they were prepared to go? One evening, an unexpected knock echoed through the workshop. It was Tom Jacobs, the eager farmer who had once cheered him on. But Tom's face was troubled tonight. Henry, the old crew, they're talking about striking. They feel ignored. They need to feel valued, too. You can't just move forward and leave them behind. The urgency in Tom's voice hit Henry like a punch. His conviction wavered, and a creeping doubt settled over him. Had he really been so focused on his vision that he had overlooked the people who mattered most? Maybe I've been too ambitious, he admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. Tom nodded gravely. You need to listen. Bring them in. Make them a part of this. Let them know they're not just cogs in a machine. They're family. That word hung in the air, family. It struck a chord in Henry. He could forge new paths, but not at the expense of the old. There was strength in unity, as Clara had suggested. He had built this workshop on dreams, but perhaps it needed to be built on connections, too. He rubbed his chin, heart racing as ideas surged in his mind. What if he could create a council of workers? A place for their voices to be heard, their concerns addressed? If he could bridge the gap between the old and the new, perhaps he really could foster a community that thrived together. But would the workers trust him again? Would they be willing to step out of the shadows and into a new light? The thought was both exciting and terrifying, and Henry felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He breathed deeply. The winds of change were strong, but he refused to let them tear apart the foundation he loved. As he stood there, a plan forming in his mind, the question loomed larger than ever. Could he truly bring everyone along for the ride, or would his ambition cost him everything he held dear? The next morning, Henry woke to the sound of birds chirping outside, a gentle reminder of the world beyond the workshop walls. He glanced at Clara, still sleeping peacefully beside him. Her faith in him gave him strength. He couldn't let her down. He could envision her warm smile, the way her eyes sparkled with hope. Today, he would take a step toward making his vision a reality. After a quick breakfast, he headed straight to the workshop. The hum of machines filled the air, but he felt a heaviness settle in his chest. He knew he had to act quickly. The strike was looming, and so were the heavy emotions that would come with it. Hey, everyone, he called out, stepping into view of the workers. A few faces turned toward him, wary and uncertain. He took a deep breath. I need your attention for a moment. I have something important to share. The room quieted, tension thick in the air like fog. Clara stepped up beside him, her presence comforting. We want to hear from you, she said, her voice steady. We know change is scary, but it doesn't have to be without you. Henry nodded, sensing the shift in mood. What if we create a workers' council? The idea escaped his lips before he fully formed it in his mind. A place where everyone's voice can be heard? In this way, we can face the future together. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some looked intrigued, while others still showed signs of skepticism. Old Mr. Davis stepped forward, brows furrowed. And how do we know this council won't just be another way for you to push your ideas without considering ours? His voice was firm, full of challenge. This council would be filled with your peers, Clara answered, stepping forward with determination. We want every one of you to be a part of it. This isn't just Henry's idea. It's for all of us. Henry felt the power of her words, the growing energy in the room. Could this be the spark he needed? My heart is in this workshop with all of you, Henry continued, his voice carrying sincerity. I don't want anyone left behind, and I believe each of us can contribute to create something incredible. Let us honor our past while we build a future together. One by one, faces began to soften. Fear melted away, replaced by cautious curiosity. A bold woman named Lila spoke up. What if we prove you wrong? What if the council finds merit in both our ideas and yours? Could that work? Yes, Henry exclaimed, feeling the fire ignite in him. We can gather your thoughts, fears, dreams. If we share them, together we can find a middle ground that works for everyone. The workers glanced at each other, the walls of distrust beginning to crack. Let us set up an initial meeting soon, Clara suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Let us talk openly without the fear of being judged. We're a family here, aren't we? That word family resonated deeply. The room drew closer, the atmosphere shifting toward hope. However, just as momentum seemed to build, Henry noticed a figure lingering near the back. It was Tom. His expression was clouded with uncertainty. Henry felt a tremor in his heart at the sight. Tom was usually such a bright light. What's wrong? He asked gently. I just worry, Tom replied quietly, scratching the back of his head. What if it's too late? There's a lot of anger out there. Will we be able to change minds and hearts? Henry took a step forward, the weight of Tom's concern heavy in the air. We will try. That's all we can do, he replied, his voice low but filled with resolve. As the crowd conversed among themselves, clarifying what this council might mean for them, it became clear that hope was starting to blossom. But would it be enough to quench the growing fires of dissent? Henry swallowed hard, feeling the burden shift again. Change was a slow march, often riddled with fear and doubt. The band of warriors still loomed, and he wondered if the council would be able to heal the wounds in the community. As excitement mingled with uncertainty, the crucial question emerged: who would be brave enough to step up and share their truth? And would their voices be strong enough to carry the weight of their past while forging a path into the future? Henry stood in the workshop, heart racing as the conversations buzzed around him. Ideas were bouncing back and forth, voices rising and falling like a wave of sound. Clara caught his eye, her grin infectious. This was a moment of change. But that heavy feeling in his chest returned. What if this didn't last? Would the sense of unity melt away under the weight of old fears? He was pulled from his thoughts when Lila waved him over. We need to discuss how to make this council work, she said, a hint of excitement in her voice. I believe we can set a good example for everyone. The passion in her tone reignited hope inside him. Absolutely, he replied, gathering the small group around him. Let us brainstorm how we can ensure everyone feels included. We need to reach out to those who still doubt. As they dove into ideas, the momentum shifted. People were tossing out suggestions, meeting topics, ways to gather input. Each point made added to the growing fire of purpose. Tom watched quietly from the sidelines, still looking hesitant. Do you really think everyone can be part of this? He asked, voice low but laced with curiosity. Henry stepped closer, sensing the struggle within his friend. Yes, Tom. It's about building a bridge. If we listen first, we can find common ground. You'll see. The conversation continued, with more workers swaying into the huddle, eager to share their thoughts. Each voice mattered. Henry felt a surge of determination wash over him, sweeping away doubt. Then a familiar face emerged from the crowd. It was Sarah, the sharpest thinker in the group. What if we brought the workers' families into this too? She suggested. They deserve a platform to voice the changes they want to see. Henry's eyes lit up. That's a brilliant idea. We should have evenings where families can come together and speak. It'll show how the council impacts everyone, not just the workers. The room brightened. people beaming at the chance to expand their group. With each new idea, the worries lifted. Volunteers started to form for organizing these meetings. The energy was palpable. Yet, Henry still sensed Thomas' hesitation hanging in the air like a dark cloud. "Let us not forget our challenges," Henry said, calming the growing excitement. "We are still facing pushback from the old leadership and the mistrust of some. We need to prepare for resistance." One man shook his head in disbelief. "But what can we do? They're powerful and we're just us." Clara intervened, stepping forward. "We have something they don't, our voices. Together we are strong. This council is our chance to rewrite our story." Henry nodded firmly. "That's right. What we're starting here is more than just a meeting. It's the beginning of our journey. We can share our individual narratives of why we fight for change and blend them together into one." Tom shifted closer, a flicker of hope shining through his doubt. "So we're really doing this? Facing the powers that be together?" "Yes," Henry said, smiling at Tom. "We'll build this council for everyone, and we'll stand together when the time comes." As their plans solidified, the room felt electric, a camaraderie binding them all together. But in that moment of hope, he couldn't shake the unease lurking in the back of his mind. Would they truly be ready for the pushback? The sun began to set outside the workshop, casting long shadows across the floor. The faces around him sparked in the dim light, each one a testament to the fight ahead. What choices lay before them? Would they embrace their fears and turn them into strength? Or would the heavy hand of doubt silence their growing voices before they could even begin to be heard? Each heartbeat echoed a question: could they seize this moment or lose it altogether? As talk continued, Henry took a deep breath, preparing for the future ahead. And then he wondered what would it take to ensure their voices would never be muffled again. With the last rays of sun dipping below the horizon, the atmosphere in the workshop shifted from hopeful brainstorming to a charged anticipation of what lay ahead. The workshop, once just a place of work, transformed into a sanctuary of dreams and aspirations. Laughter mingled with deep discussions, creating a blend of excitement and unease. Henry glanced around, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride and apprehension. Clara was animatedly discussing logistics with Sarah, while Lila took notes fervently. But amidst this spirited atmosphere, Tom's lingering doubts still pressed heavily on Henry's mind. He turned toward Tom, who stood still at the edge of the gathering, arms crossed, eyes distant. "Hey Tom," Henry said gently, stepping closer. "What's really bothering you?" Tom hesitated, eyes darting to the floor. "I just don't know if we can actually change anything. What if they just brush us off? What if they never take us seriously?" Henry felt the knot tightening in his chest again. "I understand your worries, but remember, change doesn't come easy. We've got to fight for it. And fight together." Tom sighed, finally meeting Henry's gaze. "I want to believe that, really. But I've seen too many people give up before they even start. That's why we're building this council. To make sure no one feels alone in this fight. See everyone here?" Henry gestured to the buzzing assembly. "They're ready to stand with you, just like I am." He watched Tom's resolve flicker, a small nod beginning to form. But before Henry could press further, Lila's voice cut through the murmur, captivating everyone's attention. "Let us not forget the families," she said. "We need to involve our children too. We aren't just planning for ourselves. We're planning for their future." An explosion of affirmations erupted from the group. Henry felt a rush of energy pulse through him. They were igniting something greater than themselves, sparking a flame that started to illuminate even Tom's shadow of doubt. "We can host a family night," Clara added enthusiastically. "A picnic where everyone can come, talk, and even meet with council members. It'll feel more approachable, right?" Sarah chimed in. "Think of how many new ideas we could gather. Kids often see what adults miss. They have a fresh perspective." As the room erupted with suggestions for activities and themes of carnival, games, storytelling, Henry's heart raced. With every passing moment, the fear within him started to dissipate, replaced by a hopeful determination. This was no longer about just the workers. It was about a community uniting for change, But as excitement soared, a thread of anxiety tugged at Henry's heart. The old leadership would not sit idly by. What tactics would they employ to undermine this? He stole a glance at the entrance, half expecting to see a familiar sneer lurking in the shadows. "Listen," he called out, as the commotion muted somewhat. "It's clear we all want this unity, change, hope, but we also need to prepare for backlash. We must stand firm when challenges come our way." A tense quiet filled the room, the earlier exuberance shifting to a collective uncertainty. Unspoken fears hovered in the air, like a thick fog. Then Clara stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "If we face anything, we face it together. We've already stepped up by gathering here. Nobody can take that away from us." Tom straightened, bolstered by Clara's words. "She's right. We can't let anyone intimidate us. We have each other. That has to mean something." Henry could sense the room pulsing with newfound strength. He began to speak again, heart ignited by the warmth of their awakening resolve. But at that moment the workshop doors creaked open. In walked a familiar figure, cloaked in authority. It was Mr. Harper, the current head of the old leadership. His eyes swept over the crowd, a sly smile forming at the corners of his mouth. "Speaking of change, I couldn't help but overhear your little gathering." His voice dripped with skepticism, cutting through the unity like a knife. Henry's heart dropped, fear racing at the edges of his mind. What did Mr. Harper want? Would he stifle their hopes just as they began to blossom? As the room tensed in anticipation, Henry knew this was only the beginning. The council's true test was just about to unfold. Each heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the looming uncertainty of their fate. Would they stand strong against this unexpected opposition, or would all their plans unravel before they could even take root? Mr. Harper's presence loomed large, commanding the workshop with an air of authority that sent a ripple of apprehension through the crowd. Henry felt the weight of the room shift, all eyes drawn to the man who had long held the reins of power. "Isn't this an interesting turnout?" Harper continued, his voice oozing condescension. "A little bit of a grassroots movement, isn't it? Adorable." Henry swallowed hard, his muscles tensing. There was no way he could let this man intimidate them now. "We're just getting started," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "You don't have to like it, but we're forming a council. We're standing up for ourselves." Lila's face paled, and Sarah clutched her notepad like a lifeline. But Clara stepped forward, her spirit undeterred. "And we believe in what we're doing," she declared. "We're not here to fight you, Mr. Harper. We just want a say in our future." Harper chuckled, a low, dismissive sound. "A say, you say? Look around. You think a council of a few workers can change anything? Power doesn't come from mere desire. Comes from control. And I assure you I have that control." A shiver ran through Henry. He saw the doubt flickering in the eyes of his friends. But then he caught a glimpse of Tom. There was anger brewing behind Tom's usual reticence. "You might think you have control, but you don't own us," Tom shouted, the strength of his voice startling even him. "We deserve a voice. We're done waiting for you to decide what's best for us. It's our lives." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, emboldened by Tom's words. It was a spark, igniting hope against the shadows that Harper cast. Henry felt invigorated. His heart raced at the possibility of rallying them. "That's right," he added, his tone fierce. "We're not pawns in your game anymore." Harper's smile faltered, revealing cracks in his smirk. "You think your little picnic and chatter can take on years of established order? You really are naive. What happens when the rest of the company hears about this? The media? Or worse, investors?" The implications hung heavy in the air. The camaraderie began to fray, fear creeping in like a thief in the night. A few people shifted uneasily, looking to one another for answers. But Clara wouldn't let defeat cast a shadow. "This isn't just about us anymore," she called out, her voice resolute. "We're fighting for everyone who feels unheard. We need to unite, not scatter." "Exactly," Lila chimed in, her eyes bright with determination. "This is more than a council. It's about sparking a shift in how things are done." "We won T stand down." With their voices combined, the atmosphere thickened, a tangible essence of defiance in the room. Henry felt the current of bravery surge once again. He turned to Harper, meeting the man's calculating gaze. "We may not have the power you do, but we have something you can't take away. Our unity." Harper's expression darkened, his facade of amusement slipping away. "Unity? Is that what you think will protect you? You'll find the world isn't as kind as you wish it to be. But let us see how long your little experiment lasts." With that, he spun on his heel, striding out, the doors slamming shut behind him. The last echoes of his footsteps faded, but an unsettled silence filled the room. Henry looked at his friends, anxiety creeping back. Had they just summoned a storm? Their plans may hang by a thread, but there was a fire burning within him, a certainty that they couldn't turn back now. The community had gathered, ignited by a common goal, despite the looming threat. "Okay," he said, determination swelling in his chest. "We need to rally everyone. Let's use family night to spread the word. We can turn this into a movement." Clara and the others nodded, their faces lit up with urgency. As they began to discuss strategies, a sense of purpose filled the air once more, the fear gradually replaced by resolve. But with each decision made, a chilling sense of foreboding tugged at Henry. Harper's words echoed, warning him of the consequences that loomed ahead. As the group gathered around the table, brainstorming vibrant ideas, a sudden thought struck Henry. Would they truly be ready for the storm that was brewing in opposition? The night was far from over, and so was the battle. What would happen when the winds of change began to blow? Would they stand united, or would cracks start to form in their bond? The uncertainty loomed chillingly as he felt the walls of the workshop closing in, the air thick with tension. Henry knew, deep down, this was only the beginning of their fight, and the price of change would not come cheap. The following days turned into a whirlwind of activity. The grateful buzz of community spirit replaced the anxiety that had threatened to overshadow them. Henry and Clara worked tirelessly, rallying support, building enthusiasm, spreading the message like wildfire. Posters were crafted, slogans designed, and plans for family night became more vibrant with each passing moment. Henry felt a certain thrill as he witnessed his friends coming together. They transformed the workshop into a hub of innovation and camaraderie. The walls became decorated with colorful drawings, each telling a story of hope and resilience. Lila took charge of the aesthetics, ensuring everything looked polished and inviting, while Sarah meticulously documented every idea that emerged. Each day, more workers joined them, faces once anxious now lit up in anticipation of the change they could help create. But beneath the excitement, doubts still lingered in the depths of Henry's mind. What if Harper was right? What if their unity wasn't enough? The chilling reminder of his words echoed. There was power in control, and Henry had learned long ago that change could come at a steep price. On the night of the event, the air stood thick with apprehension and excitement. Lanterns flickered dimly in the workshop, creating a warm glow against the evening darkness. Families gathered, children darted around excitedly, their laughter mingling with the serious discussions among adults. Yet, with each cheerful smile, Henry felt the weight of responsibility press upon his shoulders as families took their seats. Clara stood up at the front, a magnet of fierce determination. "This isn't just about us," she declared, her voice rising above the chatter. "This is about speaking up for everyone, for our children, for the future we want to create together." The energy shifted. Genuine conversations blossomed. One by one, people stood to share their stories of workplace struggles and dreams of a better future. Henry watched as Tom opened up about his experiences, his words igniting feelings that had long been buried. People felt empowered. They shared glances of solidarity, their voices merging into a powerful chorus. But lurking around every corner were whispers of dissent. A few suspicious faces mingled among the crowd, loyalists to Harper and his iron grip over their lives. One man, Mr. Langston, a foreman who had always been Harper's right hand, stood at the back, arms crossed, face hardened. He was a stone wall against the changing tide, and a chill ran through Henry every time he caught sight of him. "Henry," Clara called, snapping him from his thoughts. "We need to discuss the next steps. We need to move forward." Biting his lip, he nodded, trying to shake off the foreboding feeling creeping up on him. "Right. Let us share the plan for how we can approach Harper, not just as a council but as a united front." Just as the discussion gained momentum, the main doors burst open, the jarring sound snapping heads around. Only darkness loomed there for a moment, reflecting the weight of concern sprawling across Henriette's heart. And then Harper stepped forward, flanked by a couple of sharp-eyed employees. The air chilled as his sardonic grin returned, a harbinger of discord. "I thought I'd come see what all the excitement was about," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "But here I see nothing but a bunch of dreamers. Do you really think this will end well?" A hush fell over the crowd. Fear washed over them like a wave, dousing the fire of enthusiasm they had built. "Mr. Harper," Clara adjusted, stepping into the confrontation. "This is about more than dreams. This is a movement toward real change." Henry felt his heart race as he observed the scene, a tightrope of possibility balancing on the fragile threads of bravery and fear. Would Clara's courage be enough? Would they stand their ground against the storm that was Harper? As voices flickered and tensions mounted, everything hung precariously in the balance. Henry knew then that the battle wasn't just for unity, it was about what they were willing to risk for their future. Would the strength of their conviction withstand Harper's intimidation, or would it crumble under the weight of fear? The air crackled with intensity, and uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Silence enveloped the workshop, heavy and charged, as all eyes remained glued on Harper. Clara stood resolute, her gaze unyielding, but Henry saw the tremor in her hands. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, eyes darting between their leader and the looming figure of Harper, who exuded confidence like a blanket of fog. "Dreamers," Clara shot back, voice steady yet vibrant. "We're more than that. We're people who want to reclaim what is ours. We're here to make a point, and you can either stand with us or fight against us." The defiance in her words hung in the air, daring Harper to respond. Harper's smile faded slightly, replaced by a calculating look. He stepped closer, each stride measured and deliberate. "And what do you think will happen, Clara? Do you really believe you have the power to challenge me? This is my town, my business. Your dreams don't mean a thing without backing." Henry felt a pulse of fear in the room, an undercurrent of doubt threatening to drown out Clara's voice. Was she right to proceed like this? He understood the weight of Harper's words, the raw authority that had maintained control for so long. "We'll find that backing," Clara asserted, her voice rising again, "in the hearts of everyone here tonight. We just need to give them the hope to believe they can." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Henry caught sight of Mr. Langston's scowl hardening. The foreman clenched his jaw, shaking his head slightly as if to warn others not to get carried away. "This is just a bunch of talk," he called out, the disdain dripping from his voice. "You think standing there with slogans will change anything?" "Maybe it won't change everything," Clara replied, refusing to let Langston's comment dampen the spark. "But change has to start somewhere. If we don't at least try, then we're already lost." In that moment, the warmth of unity flickered like the lanterns overhead. Henry saw some heads nodding in agreement, shared whispers of support weaving through the crowd. The passion infused their atmosphere, igniting something powerful. Then, Harper leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur that sent a shiver down Henry's spine. "This isn't just about you. If you disrupt my operations, you won't just face me, you'll face consequences. You'll be endangering your families, your homes." Gasps erupted from the audience. Fear tangled with their hopes, stirring the pot of uncertainty. Clara's expression faltered for only a second. Henry knew what she was feeling, the precariousness of this moment, the realization of what was at stake. "Those consequences," she shot back, voice edging on desperation, "are already here. We're living them every day under your rule. It's time we stand together, time we demand better for ourselves." Henry's heart raced as the room seemed to shift. He could feel the walls contract and expand with each pulse of courage running through him. But ahead of clarity was chaos, and in a moment of fierce bravery, an elderly woman stood up from the back, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I stand with Clara. We've all suffered long enough." Her voice ripped through the tension, sparking emotions through the crowd like wildfire. One by one, men and women began rising, some clutching hands tightly, others raising fists in solidarity. Henry felt a rush of warmth as the realization hit him they were truly uniting against the very darkness that had held them captive. He turned to Clara, who was beaming, a beacon of light amidst the swirling storm. But just as Henry opened his mouth to speak, to add his voice to the sea of support, Harper's laugh cut through the shouts, sharp and taunting. "You think this little display is going to scare me? I'll crush it just like every other uprising." A chill sank into Henry's bones as the laughter echoed in their ears. The jovial facade of camaraderie hung in the air, supple yet frail, each note carrying the weight of doubt. What if Harper was right? What if all their passions would go up in smoke? At that moment, uncertainty transformed into icicles of fear, prickling at the edges of hope. As the frail balance between courage and intimidation stood before them, Henry felt a shift inside him, a pang of urgency. If they didn't brace for the worst, what fate awaited them? Would they indeed stand their ground, or scatter like leaves before a storm? And then, from the back, Langston stepped forward, the glint in his eyes a mix of anger and resignation. "You dream of change, but will you pay for it?" Henry's insides twisted, knowing this was just the beginning of a confrontation that would test their resolve. Would their dreams cost them everything? The air buzzed with tension. Langston's challenge struck like lightning in a clear sky. The workshop felt smaller, walls closing in as uncertainty clung heavily. Henry swallowed hard. The stakes had never been clearer. Clara stood firm, her gaze unwavering. "We understand there is a cost, Mr. Langston," she replied, her voice steady. "But standing by and doing nothing is a cost we can no longer afford." Their voices echoed in solidarity, rising above the weight of fear. Henry could feel the courage swirling around them, palpable and bright. "We deserve a community where we can thrive together," he shouted, adrenaline thrumming in his veins. "We're not just cogs. We're people, and we have the right to work for a future that honors every single one of us." Suddenly, the crowd erupted. Energy surged like wildfire, igniting a fervor among the workers. Old faces lit with hope, while younger voices dared to dream of something better. Henry's heart swelled. This was the moment he had been fighting for. But just as hope reached a crescendo, Harper's condescending laughter sliced through like a knife. "This is not a fairy tale, my friends. Your dreams are nothing in the wake of reality. If you dare disrupt my business, you'll find yourself on the receiving end of my control. I won't stand by while you chase shadows." Murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd, casting flickers of doubt over their momentous gathering. Henry felt the heat fade slightly, replaced by a trickle of cold apprehension. What could they do to counter Harper's power? The door suddenly swung open wider, revealing a shackle of intimidation. But Henry gathered his strength in that moment, eyes scanning the room, locking onto every familiar face. "Let us show him who we are," he shouted. "We'll face these consequences together. If they come for one of us, they come for all." Clara stepped beside him, emboldened and fierce. "We've already been through enough. Fear is a weight we can no longer bear alone. It's time we lift each other up." Then a young worker named Jake stood up. "I'm with you," he called out. "If Harper thinks he can silence us, he is sorely mistaken. There's too many of us wanting change to be ignored, right?" Someone else echoed, and the voices surged, a tidal wave of solidarity crashing against the rocky shore of intimidation. The room trembled with energy. Henry felt a spark of defiance igniting the path forward. "Together," Clara urged. "We're a family. We have the power to fight back, to create a future we envision. Not just for us, but for those who might come after." The passion was infectious, the pressure lifting as breaths were taken in unison. Each voice tumbled over the other, the whispers of unity carrying them higher. But Harper's stare didn't falter. "You think this energy will hold?" He challenged, his tone icy. Remember, I control the means of production, the lifeblood of this community. Your resolve one tea by bread. You need to understand what you're up against. Henry felt his pulse quicken again. This was the clash they had anticipated. The stakes were monumental. But they had already committed themselves. We challenge your power because we know how strong we can be when we unite. He declared. In that moment, something shifted the air electric with raw potential. With every heartbeat, fear morphed into a shared understanding that they could transcend whatever Harper was trying to instill. Henry looked at Clara. She nodded, inviting him to lead. It's time that we prove him wrong. Together, as if sparked by an unseen force, the crowd rallied. Hands raised high, voices grew louder, an anthem of defiance echoed around the workshop. They felt the rush, the camaraderie. Each face was a testament to resilience. Each voice a promise of hope. With a steadying breath, Henry raised a fist, feeling the outstanding energy surrounding him. Let us stand not just for ourselves, but for every worker who believes they can change their fate. Faces turned toward him. Fervor knotted them together tighter than any cord. Slowly, he spoke softly. This council is only the beginning. We aren't just backing away. We are stepping forward. The fear was palpable, but side by side, they bore it together. This was not just about challenging Harper, it was about shattering the chains binding their hearts. As their voices rose together, Henry felt the tremors of progress quaking the foundation of their collective future. With strength blooming in each heart, the workshop transformed into a sanctuary of hope, igniting a brilliant light against the looming darkness of despair. Henry knew they were forging into a storm, but the sense of support poured over them in waves. They may have faced their fears, but they were also igniting dreams they once deemed impossible. You all are the backbone of this community, and nothing can take that away, Henry cried out. In that moment, every doubt shattered. They would march onward, not just as workers, but as a family connected by aspirations, battling winds of intimidation together. Then an unexpected shout broke through the noise, and Harper Tom called, stepping forward. This isn't just about us. It's about the spirit of everyone in this town. We won't be silenced anymore. With renewed vigor, they cheered, heartbeats syncing as one. The boundary that had once seemed insurmountable now felt trivial. Together, they would craft a new narrative. They could reshape their destinies if they dared to believe in themselves, in one another, and in the promise of tomorrow. They would be the change. They would build the bridge that connected the old with the new. No more shadows. Only light awaited them on the horizon. But the battle was far from over. Today was just the beginning. They stood ready, stronger than ever, ready to fight. And from that moment forward, they would not back down. The future beckoned, and together they would answer. Now is the time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support, stand with us, and be part of the revolution. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Together we can change the world.